Hi there, my name is Charlotte, and in this podcast, I'm going to be talking about helping students to prepare for their exams, in particular, their English exams. If you haven't heard any of my podcasts before, my name is Charlotte, and I have experience working in a nursery school, which deals with children from the ages of 0 to 4, and I now work in a primary school as a Year 2 teacher in London. And as a teacher and from past school experiences, I have to say that exams are annoying, both for the students and for the teacher. It's annoying for the teachers because they need to help the students learn information. They need to plan the lessons, and then they need to pass on that knowledge that they know or knowledge about the subject to the students so that the students can then learn the knowledge and gain it for themselves. Then the teacher needs to prepare the students to answer the questions and use all that knowledge to, say, pass an exam. It's annoying for the students because they have to spend that time remembering a lot of information. It's a lot. It's crazy the amount of stuff that they have to learn about one topic. And then they have to regurgitate some of that knowledge, not even all of it, just some of the knowledge to answer some questions about it. They need to show that they've read and understood a question and then answer it in a coherent way, write some good sentences that include the information, and answer the questions correctly. So they also have to give the correct answer. When you think about it, it is it's annoying. You have to do all of this stuff, prepare for yourself, all that knowledge, all that information. And then when you do the test, they only ask you certain things. And if you're not sure on those certain things, you're not sure that they're going to ask you this question or you're going to ask you about that bit of information, and you're not too sure on it, and that's where you kind of get stuck. So after you've done all of that and you sat through an hour and a half or 2 hours writing and expelling all that knowledge out of your brain and onto the piece of paper, then the papers get collected, they get sent to an awarding government body like AQA or Edexcel or OCR. They give the marks, they mark the students' tests and give them a final award from A to F. And that just basically tells a student that if you get an A, B, or C, yes, you've understood enough about a subject and now you can take the advanced lessons in that subject. If you get marks from C, D, E, F, then it means that you don't really know anything about the subject at all, and you probably shouldn't be doing this subject in the future. That's just the basic lines of it all. So before the students even get to sit a test, the teachers need to put in a lot of work to get the students ready. They need to give the students that knowledge and make sure that they can answer simple questions first before they move them on to more complex questions. And I think that's always the kind of hardest part for the teacher. They plan, they go over the material at times. It's the same material that they're planning for and trying to get the students to learn. Then they plan again, and then they replan if the students didn't get it the first time. And they have to think of different ways of showing that information, showing that piece of work to the students so that the students can say, yes, I understand what you're trying to get me to know. And I understand I have the knowledge now and I get it. So that's why before I started this rant, saying it's annoying for teachers and for the students because exams are, they're just the worst, really. I have done another podcast, and it's about GCSE English literature exams, basically. And it's how students can help their students prepare for them. I'm not a secondary school teacher. I'm a primary school teacher. So I'm not even sure what the practice is these days in secondary classes. They could be doing the strategies that I've put out, because basically it's the same kind of strategy. The strategy stays the same. You're just trying to get the students to learn this information in a way that's fun or in a way that's helpful to them or in a way that will make the information stick in their little brains, in their little minds. So now I'm just going to give a few ways of how students can learn, how they can learn to answer an exam question. So what I'm going to say is really more my own opinion and from my past experiences of working in a year 1 and year 2 class and working in a nursery. So you don't have to do any of it. It's just my own thoughts, really. But if you think, oh, I could give that a try and you want to try it, then go ahead. It might work for you. It might not work. But that's the whole point, I think, for learning how to do things. You give things a try. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But at least you know you've tried it and you know, no, I know that doesn't work for me. I can do this instead. I guess it's kind of like going to the hairdressers and saying, give my hair this bob cut. Then they cut your hair and then you look at yourself and you're like, oh no, what have I done? I didn't want a bob cut. No, it doesn't look good. But then you've already cut your hair and there's not much you can do. So you then have to just wait for it to grow back out and then you can just redo your hair afterwards. So yeah, I would say try before you say, nah, that's rubbish. Anyway, so here's one way that you can go about answering exam questions. So let's say you're reading a book for your English literature class. You read one chapter and you're just not sure about what you've read. You're not sure what's going on in the story that you've read. So just don't read any further. Just keep to that chapter. And then what you could do is try to retell the story to a friend or a family member or someone you know, someone you're familiar with, someone you can talk to. Tell them, I've just read this book. I've read one chapter and I'm not quite sure about what it's about. So then they'll probably ask you, well, what happened in it? And then you can tell them what happened in the story. Then they'll say, but then who's the main character? Is it a girl? Is it a boy? What's their name? And you can tell them that. Then they'll probably say, so what happened in the chapter then? And then you'll probably be a little bit more inclined to say, oh, actually, I read that. And this is literally kind of what exam questions are. They're basically asking you these questions. It's kind of like you're talking to your best friend and they're interested in what you're saying. And they're like, oh, so then what happened next? Oh, and what happened to this person? Oh, then what happened? Well, why did they do that? And why did they think that? And, you know, they get so involved in it. Or you could be like telling them whatever you want, really. So you could then just talk about what you've read and what happened in the book and why. And I think this is quite a nice way to prepare yourself for exams. You talk to other people about the book, ask them to ask you questions about it, or they just ask you naturally about it. And you kind of feel comfortable with it. And you're like, well, and then you go blah, 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 blah. And that's basically all the information. You're happy and you probably feel comfortable now. You've read that chapter. And then you say, actually, yeah, I don't know what will happen next. So you want to read on. And then you'll probably read the next chapter. So yeah, what I'm saying is that you can prepare yourself by talking to others. Talk to them about the book, ask them to ask you questions about it, and then you probably feel comfortable with the material, and then you'll feel comfortable with what you're saying. But don't just make stuff up and just add new parts to the story. Just retell the story like it is, just exactly what you've read. When I was in year 1 and now I'm in year 2, whenever the students had to take a comprehension test, it's basically an English literacy test. They are given like 1, 2, or 3 short paragraphs about something. And it can be about anything. I think they had to read about this band who was creating musical instruments from vegetables. And they have to read those short paragraphs about it. And then they get asked 5 or 6 questions about what they've just read. And there's usually some basic questions about the character or the event, and then it asks them for their own ideas, like, why do you think that? What do you think will happen next? That's quite a nice one, the prediction question. Or what happened if? And then they just basically want to ask you for your opinions and your own ideas. Now, for older students, you're given the book to read for the whole year. So you're kind of already ahead of these little ones. You get a chance to read the story and then read over it again and again. You're given lots of time to formulate your own thoughts and opinions about the book, the characters, the events, and the storyline. So you have a lot of time to do this. Granted that the question you get given is a little bit more complicated than What did the character say about this? Or what is the character wearing? Or something like that. But it will still ask you for your opinions. It will ask you for your thoughts and your ideas about the book. So basically, we call these kind of questions why questions and prediction questions and thought and opinion questions, because it's your thoughts and your opinions. And usually what they want from these kind of questions, the what, they just want you to show why you thought or why you agree or why you disagree about something in the book. So let's say you read, I'm just going to pick Romeo and Juliet. So you've read about the Capulets and the Montagues, and the question might be, why were the Capulets and Montagues at war with one another? And then you're going to have to figure out the reasons why they were arguing and fighting and not happy with each other. One house, one group of people was against the other group of people. What's the history there? Why? And you go through it because you've read the book, you've read Romeo and Juliet, and you've read about maybe the history, you've read about the bad blood, you've read about the fights that they have, and you can say, well, the Capulets and the Montagues were not on good terms with each other because, and then it's up to you to just pick bits from the book to show, yeah, well, this is what happened in the book, and that shows that the Capulets were really not happy with the Montagues at this point in the story, and the Montagues then retaliated by doing this, and that shows, again, that just put them in a bad light to the Capulets, and so on and so forth, basically. So it's basically one of those things, and you just have to pick from the book, from this long story about, this is reasons why, and this is why you thought this, and this is why this is what happened in the story, basically. So I think that if you can talk about the book, then it might make it easier for you to then write about it. Most of the time, you write how you would talk, and I think that this kind of gets lost when students take an exam, because you are shown lots and lots of different ways of how to write. I also talked about this in another podcast where we start off little by little, bit by bit. You form sentences and then you add to those sentences and you make them more and more complicated or complex or interesting. And you could do this by adding verbs and adjectives and adverbs. And you can use really big words. Or you can use simple words, but still make it effective, still have an effective sentence. And when students take an exam, it's like they've forgotten how to talk. They become so nervous about the whole idea of the exam that they even find it hard to even begin to answer a question. And I think that's quite sad, really, because you know how to answer a question. You get asked questions every day by everyone. Oh, what did you do in school today? Oh, how was your friend? Oh, how so-and-so? Oh, what was that movie that you watched? Just silly questions like this. Everyone gets asked a question and you just automatically say, oh yeah, so-and-so is doing really well. They had a baby the other day. They did this. They got married, blah. Oh yeah, that movie that I watched was so good. I really was excited to watch it, and it didn't disappoint because, and then you give your whole explanation of why you loved watching that movie. And it's the same thing with exams and questions. They are just asking you to give your ideas. What's your thoughts about this? What's your idea about this? What's your opinion about that? So another way that you can answer exam questions is to role play the story and the events that have taken place. So you just imagine you are the main character. It's happening to you right now. All the events has happened to you. How would you feel in the situation, and why would you, as the character, do what you do in the book? Now, this type of strategy can be applied to any kind of text at any time. All you need to do is read through a section of your book and then think about being the main character. Then you just talk or you'll write down how you're feeling at that time or what you felt throughout after the book. And you could also then talk to someone else about it if you want. Again, just the role play and say, oh yeah, I imagine that I was Romeo in this situation. I was so upset when I thought that Juliet was dead. She was the love of my life and I couldn't live without her. So then I decided to take the poison. It's kind of like the role play when you do hot seating and people are asking you pretend to be the character, and then people ask you questions in the hot seat and they say, oh, why did you do this? Or why did you do that? Or what did you think when in the story it happened? So yeah, you can also do that kind of role play thing. And it actually does work because it helps you to kind of make it a bit more personal, helps you to kind of think things through, and you don't really have to write anything. It's just your thoughts. Yeah. Let's see. Another thing that you can do is to just practice answering questions. Find an example question that you struggle to answer, write the question down, and then you just begin writing an answer. If you get it wrong, then you get it wrong. But don't worry, don't be afraid of getting it wrong, because then you can realize how to get it right and you can answer correctly. When you do a practice question, you can afford to be wrong. It's okay. Then when you get to the real thing, you remember, oh gosh, no, I don't want to answer it wrong again. And then you start answering it correctly. I think sometimes there's just a big amount of pressure for children to get everything right first time all the time. And this kind of sucks for the child. It kind of sucks for the children and the students, because they feel, oh my God, if I don't get it right, then I'm bad at everything. And I think that pressure from parents it can be a bit much. And it's probably why some students go off the rails, or they feel like everything is crashing down around them when they get one or two things wrong, or they don't get 100% or whatever they don't get in their test. But getting things wrong from time to time is what helps you learn. It's what helps you get better. I think it's better to get it wrong and learn what to do right and get it right the next time. Teachers sometimes get things wrong too. I've had times when the kids corrected me, but I didn't sit around and cry about it. I just accepted the mistake and I said, oh, you're right. And then I moved on. And I said, okay, well, Miss didn't get it right this time, but I will get it right next time. You can also show the children that it's okay to be wrong sometimes, because sometimes children and students, they see teachers as the big person who knows everything. You know, you're the great guy who knows all. And then when they see you get things wrong, they're like, oh no, what happened? You know, my favorite person or my favorite teacher got things wrong. Yeah. Anyway, so during the exam, it's okay to feel a little bit of panic. It's okay to be anxious, and it's okay to be scared. But if you feel confident about the story that you've read and you feel confident that you know it inside and out, then you can answer any question. As I said before, think of an exam or a test as a person. They're standing in front of you and they're asking you about the book. They want to know what you have understood, what your thoughts and opinions about it, and they just genuinely want to know what you thought. So, yeah, go for it. Just say, yeah, I thought that, or I agree that, or I disagree. Finally, remember to take breaks. Get away from your exams and studying. Go and do something else, something that will help you relax about the thought of an exam coming. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. We are not robots. We need to find some time to be human. And if that means that you're just doing something you find fun, find relaxing, then just do it. You know, go for a walk outside, walk around the park or something. Go watch your favorite movie, go watch your favorite TV show. If you want to do some people watching, do some people watching, walk around in the park and just do, or an activity like a sport, like, you know, tennis or table tennis or badminton, something that you just enjoy. And even that, it takes your mind off the exams, takes your mind off too much of the worry. And yeah, it's just time for you, really, which I think people forget to do. Well, that's it from me. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. If you do have any comments and questions, leave them down below. I will be making some more podcasts in the future, so do listen out for them. And thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope you have a great day. And any of the things that I've said in this podcast, if you want to try it out and you've got an exam coming up and you're feeling a bit stressed out, take some advice and just take a break if you need to, or take a moment, read the story again, especially your English lit papers and books and things, and it's getting a bit too much. Just tell someone about it. Don't keep it all inside. Yeah, talk to someone. It helps. Talk about the book, talk about things, talk about anything. And yeah, talking helps. So I hope that, well, good luck, first of all, in your exams. And yeah, good luck. See you. I'll listen out for my podcasts next time. Bye.